Was Jeezy in the paperwork?
Hell yeah. Shit, I feel like that. I know some things he did, like he turned Meech's cars into the feds.
I had the phone records and 2 witnesses prepared to testify for what would have been a rock-solid RICO murder case.
Young Jeezy has officially been exposed, and this time it's not just rap gossip or street talk. The accusations didn't come from old rivals like Blue Da Vinci or Gucci Mane. Nah, this time it came straight from the FBI. Those quiet whispers that followed Jeezy for years about him being a snitch are now tied to 2 of the biggest, deadliest stories in his career. His wild feud with Gucci Mane and his deep connection to the legendary Black Mafia family. Back in 2005, when things between Gucci and Jeezy hit their boiling point, chaos erupted. Words turned to threats and threats turned to gunfire. By the end of the night, one man was dead, Pookie Lock, one of Jeezy's close homies. The media painted Gucci as the shooter, claiming he acted in self-defense after being ambushed at home. Gucci caught a murder charge, but it was dropped when the evidence backed his story. That moment defined Gucci's legacy. The beef, the jail time, the comeback, all rooted in that one deadly night. But here's the part few talk about. That murder made the feds start watching Jeezy instantly. Behind closed doors, they weren't just focused on Gucci, they were looking at Jeezy too. Reports later surfaced that agents believed he set the whole thing up. To them, Gucci just reacted, but Jeezy pulled the strings. They saw the hit as planned, not random. Cold, calculated, enough to make the feds keep eyes on Jeezy for years. So if the details of that bloody feud seem blurry now, don't trip. Let's rewind the story, because right here is where everything twists in ways no one could have imagined.
In the grocery store, the line like, ooh, old white lady, do you know that Gunna told you was a bitch? Like all that shit, bitch ass shit. I'm cut from a different cloth. I'm cut from the cloth that you got your information on whoever is the rat. And you got it in black and white and you understand what went on with such case or whatever, you feel me? So, you know, when it come down to me, it's just different.
Was Jeezy in the paperwork?
Hell yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is public information. You can look up right now on your phone. Man testifies about Jeezy's cocaine selling. Type in your phone something like that, you're gonna see one of the who name it Lights, Ralph Sims, the same that told about the limo that tried to say I told. Ralph Sims, Ralphie. Told on Jeezy, told everything Jeezy ever did. Jeezy had like 12, Jeezy had more statements on him than me.
For years, Jeezy has stood firm, denying every rumor thrown his way, swearing he never sent anyone to harm Gucci Mane. In every interview, on every stage, he's repeated the same line, saying he had nothing to do with that tragic night or the shooting that took Pookie Lock's life. But no matter how many times he said it, the streets never fully believed him. Gucci didn't either. The whispers never stopped, and the harder Jeezy tried to kill the story, the stronger it grew. People close to the scene whispered something was off, that not everyone was telling the whole truth. Back in 2005, Jeezy's world was spinning out of control. His homie had just died trying to hit Gucci. His rap circle was crumbling, and his heavy ties to the Black Mafia family, one of the most feared groups in the streets, were starting to backfire. When the feds dropped that massive RICO indictment, it swept up everyone linked to BMF. Bosses, drivers, enforcers, promoters, nobody was safe. They cleaned house, snatching up people left and right, but somehow Jeezy's name, nowhere to be seen. That alone raised eyebrows. Even Blue Da Vinci, who was moving side by side with Jeezy during the BMF days, got caught up, charged, and sent away. So how did Jeezy, one of the most visible names tied to the crew, just walk away untouched? To some, it didn't make sense, and to others, it made too much sense. Years later, Blue Da Vinci finally sat down with Akeem for an interview, and that's when things got real. He didn't just talk about music or old memories. He opened up about what might have been happening behind closed doors. Blue said he started to believe Jeezy had maybe cut a quiet deal with the feds, cooperating just enough to keep his own name clean and his freedom intact. He admitted there was no hard proof, but the timing, the silence, and how everything lined up, it painted a picture too loud to ignore.
What you talking about? But nah, he didn't get indicted because he did some more other shit. I feel like that. I know some things he did, like he turned Meech's cars into the feds. The same Porsche truck and that Ferrari I was talking about a while before. He came to Miami and doing some lie detector tests about this gun case he caught one year in 06 when I went to go meet him. We had a shootout, not against him, but some other, like when me and him start trying to talk, some other popped it off with us and we ended up having a shootout. And he ended up going to jail for a gun. If anybody is familiar with that Miami case, him and Twin came back to do a polygraph test supposed to be for that shit. And the security said that Meech cars pulled up on flatbeds, nigga, into the federal building when he went and did it, when he was inside for his meeting or whatever. So I know he turned in the cars. Ain't no telling what people be doing, bro. That's all I know he did. And then he told about the gun case that was already thrown out at the state level, and then the feds picked it back up. So everybody look up Big House. You look up Big House. He was a security for Jay-Z. He was a security for Big Meech. He was also security for Young Jeezy. Yeah, Jeezy put the people on his ass, and he'll let you know. If you look him up, he talking his story, and you got all these people with these accounts of these people that's out here. Sorry, y'all, I just be the bearer of bad news because 10 years go by and people act like they ain't never heard nothing, don't know nothing. Like, hold on, the selective politics shit gotta stop.
If you really look at that BMF indictment, it's crazy how ruthless the feds were moving. They swept up everybody, top to bottom, no matter how small their role was. Drivers, promoters, assistants, girlfriends, even folks who just showed up to a party got caught and did real time. Some served 2 or 3 years for barely touching the operation. Yet somehow Jeezy, who was seen rolling with Big Meech and the BMF crew almost every day, walked away spotless, not one single charge. For anyone paying attention, that just didn't add up. For a long time, the only ones pushing that story were Blue Da Vinci and a few old BMF soldiers who'd been there since day one. But whenever they spoke up, people brushed it off like hate. They said Blue was bitter, jealous, or trying to drag Jeezy down because Jeezy's career blew up while theirs fell apart. The industry treated it like gossip, not facts. But Blue didn't back down. He kept talking, dropping more details that started sounding less like rumors and more like receipts, especially when he revealed how that tension crept into the music game. Blue shared one story that really stung. He said he and Jeezy had teamed up for a track, a comeback record meant to bring Blue back after all the BMF drama. Everything was lined up. The song was done, radio promos ready, timing perfect. But once it hit the airwaves, it vanished overnight. No warning, no reason, just gone. Blue later found out why. Jeezy never signed the clearance papers that let the track stay on rotation. Without that signature, stations had to pull it instantly. Blue was blindsided, embarrassed even. After everything they'd survived, he thought Jeezy would have his back. Instead, it looked like Jeezy shut it down on purpose. So Blue reached out trying to handle it man to man. But that call only made things worse. After that, the whispers grew louder, the questions got messier, and the streets started buzzing again about what Jeezy might really be hiding behind all those clean records and polished interviews.
And I pushed the record out. It was on Koch. It was getting promoted and all the shit. It was getting promoted correctly. All the numbers was right. I was like 300 and some spins a week on my BDS at the time. And I got a call from my team. It was like, bro, they talking about, it was like a Tuesday. I think it was a Tuesday if I am mistaken. I was on the road on my tour bus and I got a call from my team and they said that on Thursday in 2 days, they gonna pull the record from radio if they don't get Jeezy and CTE signature. They wasn't signed off for the record. So I like, what? I'm like, all right, hold on, bro. Let me call this and blah, blah, blah. So I called it. And this wasn't the first time I called them about that. It was already mentioned before they dropped the shit. So they dropped it and we still didn't have the signatures. And I think it was dropped on good faith that we was gonna get the signatures from Alan Grunblatt at Koch. They got the shit. They worked it out with Clear Channel or whatever. So, you know what I'm saying? So the record could stay up there and they was telling them that they gonna have the paperwork or however it went. But them motherfuckers, I called Jeezy, he swear up and down to God in heaven, he signed off and all this shit. But I had my signature, then my signature for BMF Entertainment as the owner. Then we had Alan Nim's signature from Koch. Then we had John Jackson, which is Fabulous name as an individual, Fabulous, the artist. Then we had Skane and Clue for Desert Storm was signed off. I had those signatures. I saw them with my eyes. Then I think I had, at this time, was Jay Brown's signature from Def Jam. He was the vice president of Def Jam at that time. I believe his signature was on my record for Def Jam.
Blue Da Vinci eventually got fed up with the back and forth. He'd been calling Jeezy nonstop, trying to handle things the right way, but Jeezy kept dodging him, always with excuses or delays. Blue couldn't wrap his head around why Jeezy wouldn't just clear the record and make things right. Finally, Blue snapped and said straight up, "I'm pulling up on you." So he did. And that's when everything went left. When Blue pulled up to confront Jeezy face to face, things got heated fast. What started as a tense conversation turned into a full-blown altercation, and before anyone knew it, shots rang out. The whole thing spiraled out of control. They never even got to finish talking or squash the issue. Jeezy ended up taking a polygraph test to prove he wasn't the one who fired the gun, and he had to fight a whole case just to clear his name. It was chaos from start to finish. After that situation, Blue Da Vinci said he finally connected the dots. He came to the conclusion that Jeezy must have been cooperating with the feds, and that's why his hands were tied. In Blue's eyes, Jeezy's lawyers were probably warning him not to do anything that could even look like helping BMF, because one wrong move could have landed him right in that same RICO indictment.
The next day I talked to him like, bro, where you at? I'm just finna pull up. I left my tour route and drove the bus all the way to Miami to go have a conversation with Jeezy about the record being signed off, and that's when that shootout happened that I was just talking about previously. I went to talk to him about that record. That's what the conversation was about. I was coming to meet him and confront him about the shit with all of this shit with me. And as soon as we start talking, Tula was walking down the street with dreads, and they're like, "Oh shit, there go Jeezy, dog." And the other nigga like, "Oh, and Blue, that's Jeezy and Blue, nigga, that's BMF right there, nigga. Oh, bro, let us get a picture." And then my little cousin twin, big twin, he like, "Oh, nigga, they ain't taking no picture. You see they trying to talk." So the little like, "Yeah." And then the twin fired him. Boom. And that's what started that shit that ended up to the shootout. And me and him never talked about the record right there, because that fight turned into a shootout, turned into we all ran, turned into Jeezy got locked up for the gun. And then later on, Jeezy went back to have a polygraph test about that situation. That was all about that day I went to meet him to talk about why he ain't signed off on my record with me, him, and Jeezy, and they pulled it from the radio. And I believe he couldn't because the feds had jacked him and told him, nigga, if you help these niggas, and the same reason why he couldn't do the deal with us. Same reason why he couldn't put his name on the contract, because the contract ensues help to BMF, and they struck his ass down and told him they were gonna put your ass in prison if you continue to help Big Meech and Blue in that BMF shit. You're gonna fully pull away from that shit. Like, there ain't nobody else stopped quitting the mob. He the only in history that just stopped claiming the mob.
Up until now, everything about Jeezy's so-called snitch rumors had been floating around like street legend. More theory than fact. Most people brushed it off saying, "Man, these dudes just hating on Jeezy." They saw it as jealousy, people trying to drag down a successful black man who made it out the streets and flipped his hustle into a career. The talk was always the same, they just mad he beat the game. But then things took a wild turn when a former FBI agent who actually worked on Jeezy's investigation decided to speak up. According to this ex-agent, back when Pookie Lock got killed by Gucci Mane, and everyone believed Jeezy had sent him to take Gucci out, the feds weren't sitting idle. The agent claimed they had everything. Witnesses, wiretaps, phone records, even surveillance. They were just seconds away from hitting Jeezy with a full-blown RICO indictment, one that could have locked him away for life. The plan, according to the agent, was to charge Jeezy in the same way they charged YFN Lucci, where Lucci got tied into his own homie's death after a botched retaliation gone wrong. The comparison was chilling, just like how Lucci's crew slid on the ops. Shots were fired, and one of his boys got killed. The feds were ready to do the exact same thing to Jeezy. They wanted to hit him for Pookie Lock's death, claiming he set everything in motion. But then something strange happened, something that made the whole case suddenly vanish. The agent said out of nowhere, everything just stopped. No more movement, no indictment, nothing. And that's the part that had everyone wondering what really went down behind those closed doors.
Yeah, I'm not going to say the guy's name because he's pretty famous, and to be fair, he was never charged with a crime. But we had these two rappers in Atlanta in the early 2000s, and they were beefing with each other, trading diss tracks, the whole thing. Then rapper number one, the famous one, orders his goons to go beat up rapper number two and steal this gaudy gold and diamond necklace he wore in all of his videos, and that's where it got interesting. The goon squad shows up at rapper number two's place. He pulls a gun and starts shooting. One of the attackers gets hit, makes it about 200 yards away from the house before he drops dead. Rapper number two is arrested for murder, but it's dismissed as self-defense. And the real criminal here is rapper number one, who ordered the violent act that got his man killed. I had the phone records and two witnesses prepared to testify for what would have been a rock-solid RICO murder case. But for reasons that were never explained to me, the U.S. Attorney's Office declined prosecution, and rapper number one went on to have a phenomenally successful career. Oh well, win some, lose some.
So now it's starting to look real obvious what the former FBI agent was trying to say Jeezy told, because the feds don't just drop a clear-cut RICO case for no reason. Something had to go down behind closed doors. When federal prosecutors suddenly back off after being inches from an indictment, that usually means only one thing: cooperation. Somebody was talking. But what really set the internet on fire was what that ex-agent did after making those claims. In the comment section of his post, he only liked and replied to 2 comments, and both of them said a lot without saying much. The first one mentioned Jeezy and Gucci, and the agent replied, "I mean, you said it, I didn't." That alone had people losing their minds. The second comment took things even further. Someone wrote, "So Jeezy cooperated with the feds on Meech, and that's why he got a pass?" And the agent liked it too. Not only did he like it, but he responded with "interesting theory," playing it cool but clearly hinting that the story might be real. He didn't deny it. He didn't correct it. He just let that comment sit there, confirming everything without having to say a single direct word. So now it all makes sense. Now we know why Jeezy never got hit when BMF was wiped out. Back when everybody tied to that crew got charged, from the bosses to the drivers to the promoters, somehow Jeezy was untouched. Literally anyone calling themselves BMF ended up in cuffs, except him. And now, thanks to that ex-agent's little online slip, it's looking like the truth finally caught up. If you've been following this wild story from the start, you already know this changes everything. So don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment with your thoughts below, and I'll catch you in the next one.